Welcome to the Kawartha Small Business Podcast, where we believe the Kawarthas can be the most thriving region in Canada for small business. I'm Brian Rump from Profit Coach.
And I'm Matt Garrity of Matt AG Digital.
And before we get started, head over to kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca/checklist and download Matt and Brian's marketing checklist for Kawartha small businesses. We're recording live from Thrive Podcast Studio at the Thrive Co-working Community at 18 Kent Street West in downtown Lindsay. And with us today, we have Ryan from True North Clothing Outlet. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you.
Tell us a bit about you and your business.
We are now just finishing our 1-year anniversary of the store. Our main goal for the store is to be inflation busters. We have top quality clothing for outlet pricing. That is our biggest name.
Awesome. What I really like about that is I don't know that I've really noticed a lot of outlets popping up lately, and kind of the way our markets turned the last few years. I think people have maybe stopped seeking out outlets, or places that maybe used to call themselves outlets weren't really outlets anymore. So I think it's just really cool to see that you're doing that. I think it's about time we have some kind of inflation busting stuff.
I feel like today's time everyone can save a penny or a buck when they can.
Yeah. So tell us about, first of all, where are you? How do people find you?
So we are at 55 George Street, which is just west of the Boys and Girls Club.
Awesome.
How did you get into this?
I've always been interested in clothing, saving a penny when I can, helping the community where we're able, and just through my outreach through the town, I had an opportunity thrown at me, and basically I ran with it.
So they came to you to open up I don't want to call it outlet. We call it outlet.
Sure. Yeah. Outlet. Yeah.
And they wanted something like that in town.
Yeah, they just seen. I think that they see an opportunity to the town with not having too much for clothing stores in town.
Sure.
They've obviously seen an avenue for it, and they reached towards me, and they thought, what do you think of the idea of pitching this to the town? And found the right spot, and this is where we are.
It's interesting, yeah, because in Lindsay, besides the big company that we said before this, I don't even want to mention them, that's in the mall, where else would you go for cheap type of clothing? You've got some big, great stores here that have been here for ages, higher end stuff, though. I don't know, there's a massive gap, actually.
Yeah, there's a whole spectrum of clothing. I think, White's is a good spot for certain stuff, but their scope is limited. Mm-hmm. So, I think there's a massive need for kind of everyday clothing for everyday people.
And, I like to stress this isn't a big box store. This has kind of been built on ourselves. So you're putting money into a local person rather than a conglomerate.
Yeah. So what was your background in clothing?
Honestly, there's no serious background. I just had a passion for it.
Nice. And how so? Were you design stuff? You just like getting all dressed up?
Yeah, I just like getting dressed up. Like to look nice, feel good. When you feel good, look good, you want to feel like you're doing better for yourself.
Yeah. What did you do before this?
I was actually in a totally different avenue. I was just basically doing trades.
Oh yeah.
So
nice. What trades?
I was doing plumbing, doing some hydrovac work, doing some flooring, just everyday trades.
And you didn't like doing it anymore, or this was a better opportunity?
I've kind of got to a point in my life where things can change. I'm pretty comfortable financially, but I've always wanted to work for myself. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to take the jump, take a risk, and see where it goes.
That's awesome. Do you think that if you were going to start your own business, I'm surprised you didn't start your own plumbing business or something like that. Do you think it was the city or someone that kind of encouraged you to do that led you to the clothing versus a trade type of job, or what?
I feel like it was just the right time for me to do it. And this was the opportunity where I was like, I'm going to make the jump rather than go with what I really knew, because I don't think that was my true passion at that time.
Yeah.
It was more of a job, getting to where I was at that point. And then I think when you do your own business, you have to be in love with it rather than getting up and having to do it. You want to do it.
Yeah, because I always think that businesses start for one of two reasons. Like the business owner is passionate about something,
Right.
or they find like a gap in the market. So like you would have thought that you would have been like, okay, maybe I'm passionate about trades or something like that.
Right.
But like, no, there's not. But if you're passionate about the clothing and like there's clearly a gap of not having like that kind of clothing available at that price, like that's awesome to be able to
Right, and I also feel like because there's not a massive competition in clothing.
Yeah.
Trades, there's one every 3 corners. Everybody's a trades person, and there's 25 plumbing companies. There's 500 real estate agents. Right. I thought, you know what? I think this could work, rather than doing something that I know how to do it. I know what I'm doing. Do I really want to do the rest of my life and fall in love with it, or take a gamble?
Yeah. What have you found has been the most exciting part about running the business the last year?
Seeing the people's faces when you get to the till and go, I'm getting all this for $100. Rather than they go, man, if I went up to the mall, I would have got one shirt or one sweater.
It's crazy, and this is why this is a fun conversation for me. So right now, we just met each other right before we recorded this, but I also teach at Fleming College in the School of Business, and I'm teaching a strategy course right now. And, there's some kind of core generic strategies for businesses, and you are clearly following what we call like cost leadership. So many businesses go into like differentiation, and they compete on, I have something different, but the price is usually higher. And I think clothing's in that right now, where you go to the mall and they're not really that different, but they think they are, and you just are paying too much for maybe something you don't need to.
Right.
But you're coming in clearly, as the outlet. It's the same quality, and I just think that's a gap that's needed and a way to fill that gap.
Right, and I believe that a lot of businesses out there are just following the COVID price hike.
Oh yeah,
regardless of even if their business was affected by it, they're going, I'm going to jump on this bandwagon, and I'm going to just hike mine regardless of if it affected me at the beginning or it didn't.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that, like big groceries done that for sure. Like prices went up, people were paying it, kind of everyone got wired to expect inflation. And I think like that, kind of the laws of business are like the laws of gravity. Like eventually that comes down. So for you to come in ahead of the curve and now capture all the clients, those brands will eventually have to do that.
Exactly.
Lower their prices, but then you're already kind of there with those.
Right. Customers. So I feel like face of change happens at someone or at some point. So I'm hoping to be that someone.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think is really good and needed. And, and that's kind of why, we need people like you in every industry.
Sure.
Kind of going against that grain of just trying to extract every dollar you can.
Exactly.
But, you can still be fair and profitable.
Exactly. And I'm not only just beating competition prices by $1 or $2, it's literally by like half.
Yeah.
Which is unheard of.
Yeah. And is it brand names?
Brand names, yes.
So how are you able to do that? Like sometimes this podcast turns into me asking questions to people because I'm an idiot and I don't know how these things work. So this will be this segment. So like, how are you able to get like the brand names for such an affordable price and can like deliver them for that?
It's just overstock clothing.
Okay.
It's strictly overstock. And it's just, they have an abundance sitting in warehouses, and if you can do something with this, bonus to them, bonus to us.
That's awesome.
Which is awesome. And that's, again, finding the need. And, you find a surplus or something in the market, and that always exists. Like the clothing industry is built on marketing often and guessing. And, the big brands, they charge so much because they're kind of guessing, but they also put a lot more into marketing. And then when it doesn't sell, they kind of cut their losses, and it ends up being overstock. But it's a lot of good stuff.
Right. And it's all the brands that people love. So,
what kind of brands do you have?
So we've got Champion, we've got Roots, we've got Sitka, just your everyday brands.
Now, like, are you going directly to those companies? Like, you're calling up Roots, and are you calling up Champion, or like, who do you deal with to get that overstock? Is there a middleman in this stuff?
It's straight from the manufacturing companies.
Oh, really? Interesting. That's cool. I had no idea like this stuff existed.
I think I've known it existed, but it takes someone. You seem to have the personality to go find it, and like make those deals. Like, and that's what I love about this business too. Is like it's not easy, and I think some people are looking for that easy business where they can maybe charge a lot.
Right.
But
And it also,
like, let's go find this stuff because you have a passion for it.
right. And it's also like small communities, like in these big box companies, they do a lot of research for population and do we really want to put, a big box store in a small town and are we going to profit from it? So it takes somebody like myself to get out there and, unfortunately we can't get into a big spot like a mall because, the rent is astronomical. So we kind of got to get off the beaten path to allow for the cheaper price.
Interesting. You think it's going to be a challenge as you grow and maybe start to make more profit to not want to like more of a chunk, more of a profit out of stuff?
I think that would take away from the whole outlet experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a whole outlet experience of like it becomes your go-to place. It's kind of like a secret that's not really a secret. You got like your spot to like, go to the outlet, and you could still be profitable,
right,
and run a good business,
right,
doing the outlet. It's about getting more people in to get that magic of standing at the till,
right,
and like being surprised because they're going to go home and they're going to tell people.
Exactly. And we don't just have clothing either. We have home decor. We've got beautiful pictures. We've got hats, all sorts of different little goodies inside there. Nice surprises for everybody.
What's the goal with those offerings and products? Where do you think it's going to grow? Like stick to clothing as much as possible, or?
I kind of just want to follow what everybody wants in their household. We look for things, that are on people's walls. People want to look good, so it's like we put that on the rack. Just kind of follow with what everybody wants.
Nice.
Follow the trend.
Yeah. I asked what was the best part of the last year, and you said watching people's eyes kind of light up.
Yeah, they were like, everybody's question is like, if I was at the mall, this would have cost me so much. Hey, thank you for, I always say I could have charged you more, but I don't want to.
Yeah. What's been the biggest challenge business-wise, though, since you started?
Our location has been the biggest.
Really?
Yeah, so people are like, I couldn't find you, or like, why are you in here? Like, why wouldn't you pick the mall where there's high traffic? And I just simply got to say, if you want me in the mall, then that's where it's got to be 45 rather than 25.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're in that area that I guess can you see it from the road? Or is it mostly the stuff that's the front and you guys are further in the back of that?
So we're in a little cul-de-sac,
which
is the shipping receiving side of the building. And we do have some good signage out there now. It's kind of like we've got a path for people to come in that don't have understanding where we are yet for first timers. But sorry, what was it? The question?
I was kind of curious about like the location.
Yeah, the
location challenge, but
so like we're in a little cul-de-sac. It's not hard to find once you see the signage, and it's a beautiful place once you get in. It's a little sore on the eyes from the outside, but get in, you'll love what you see.
Yeah, I want to go check it out. I remember when I was mentioning that I saw someone that I have on Facebook. They shared the post. Right. And I saw the Champion sweaters, and I'm like, that's a big brand. Like, that's cool. And man, like, how do they do this? And I'm always curious, like, are they like sweaters with 3 arms or something like that?
Right.
But no, like, the stuff looked cool, and I definitely want to go check that out. And you used to have to keep building that referral word of mouth business, like Brian said. Like, people see that or they hear it, and they go in there and they get that excitement on their face. They're going to keep coming back and back. So, do you have like how often are you getting new orders?
It's basically a supply of what's going out, and once they get some more going out, that just means we should refill some stuff, and they just get dropped off a shipment.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome. Do you buy like sort of bulk stuff unknown, or do you know exactly what?
No, it's whatever shows up.
Okay,
it's
nice.
a surprise to me. I don't do any ordering, so it's a drop off, and it's like a little Christmas box for myself and for everybody else that comes in. So I say to come in. Things change all the time.
People love that too. I worked once at a hardware store, a home hardware that moved from like a downtown, like old-timey downtown home hardware. And we were trying to keep the place shut for a while because we were getting new stuff and it's a disaster. But people like absolutely loved coming in and like looking through boxes or just like new stuff or anyway, people
Yeah,
like that thrill of the hunt a
exactly.
little bit. So
I always intentionally go into these conversations about like doing any due diligence and like checking websites and social. Like you might already do this, but a cool idea might be on like Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok or something. Anytime you get that new box in and you don't know what it is, you do a video of like the unboxing. I
Right.
think that's exciting for people to see like, okay, like there's like the kids go crazy. My kids go crazy about
Sure.
that stuff. Like I can't believe how like they'll just watch YouTube. We'll just watch people open toys and play with toys for countless hours.
Yeah. What was that show about? What's those? Storage Wars.
Storage
Storage Wars. That's a prime example of this.
yeah,
People were just like, "What is inside that box?" And they go to commercial and they keep you tuned in. Like, right to the spot they're about to crack the box open or the pallet open.
Yeah.
Keep you tuned in. And they find out some like rare hockey card.
Yeah.
Somebody left it in there or something.
what's the thing you've been surprised by the most, or maybe most exciting?
Just cool brands and nice old vintage stuff sometimes, and just like, oh wow, this is nice. People are gonna like this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Is some of it older, like vintage stuff? Like,
Well, not like vintage, but like some of it's like overstocked that like these big brands just they have one or two of, so they can't continue to put one or two on a shelf. They need to have selection, so it just comes back and it just gets sat, and they'd rather it get sold somewhere somehow.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting, and I'm curious too. Like, where my brain went on the older stuff is like these brands have stuff sitting in storage. Storage costs money. Real estate's been going crazy, so a lot of them might be thinking, "Oh, we gotta reduce our storage, like just get rid of some of that."
And this
stuff,
could be their
which
way
is
of
an
thinking too. I
opportunity
don't
for
know their path from how they think. I just know what I get told, and this kind of I'm able to do these with it. I just kind of just go, okay, try not to ask too many questions.
Yeah.
So that could be their way of thinking. Like, we got all this overstock in this warehouse. Let's send it over here, see if we can do it.
Yeah, you start your own like Storage Wars, Lindsay. Get some of those big deals, drop them off, get like a collection of people together. I think that'd be awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really neat. This kind of reminds me of I think I can't remember if it's Harry's or Dollar Shave Club. If you've heard of those with like the razors. But it started out as a guy wanted to impress his like girlfriend's dad, because the dad had owned a business or bought something, and there was like a warehouse with like 1 million like razors in it, and he was like, "Oh, I can like sell those." So he's like trying to show off, and then he built this massive brand overselling discount razors, and then when he sold them out, he had to figure out how to get some more of them and keep the business going, because they did the like subscriptions and like low price away from like the Gillettes who are gouging everyone for a razor.
Yeah,
which is kind of neat.
The thing I like about this business too, like you want to be an inflation buster. I think this is still inflation proof, and regardless of how things are in the next coming years, people are always going to be needing clothing and looking for affordable options for it and looking for that deal. Which is
I think that's the biggest thing to stress here, right? Is everybody wants to save a buck, and everybody is tired of the inflation price.
Oh yeah, I always say to people like every industry is in a niche except for food and clothing, because we all need those things.
Right.
Everything else we get by with. Like, I don't need a phone. I don't need marketing. I don't need all these things. Like, I need food. I need clothing. And if you can provide that at an affordable rate, especially brand names that people want, that's awesome.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, I think those are two industries where I remember hearing a thing like food finds a way, clothing finds a way. So like inflation goes up and up and up. You get to the point where you just can't afford it, so you find something else to do. Right? And like with especially clothing, so much of what people pay has to do with like the brand sometimes and the status it buys.
Right.
And it's fun to buy status when you can, but when you literally don't have the money to do it,
correct,
you find something else. So when you can find decent clothing at a good price, you want to do that.
I guess last question I can think of is what's the grand vision? Like, what's the ultimate goal? Where do you see this going to in the next couple of years? Like, what do you want from it?
I want to build a experience from, like I was saying before off air, that my goal is like a flea market. I want to put an experience on the outside as well. We have a brand new food truck that has arrived. It's going to be open in spring. So the outdoor, I want to have like a food outlet venue with hopefully some outdoor vendors. So it's more of an experience, an event. You're not just coming to a store, coming to an event. That's our broadcast from this point.
That's awesome.
Hopeful speaking, but we'll see how much comes to play.
Are you a chef? Are you cooking in that food truck?
I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
I've never cooked, so.
Nice. What kind of food are you thinking?
Just your typical chip truck food, nothing gourmet by any means. Just grab yourself something nice to eat.
It's a good spot though too for it, because like you do have a suburban area and plenty of homes, and there's not anything really servicing them other than one fast food restaurant that I can kind of think of.
Yeah, that's all. Dairy Queen's the only one down there.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
And
that's awesome.
Convenience store, that's it.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to have, like you said, that experience down there.
So. Yeah, so we're hoping to give a facelift on the outside next year. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I had a client once who, similar person, never really cooked, had a spot where they're like, oh, we need a chip truck here. So then I went and found one and bought it. And then this person was like, I want to find out how to make the best like French fries ever. So this was like an old time hustler, sat in his car, did research, like look at things. He'd sit with a counter to see how many people were going and stuff. And he found this chip truck that he was like, I think they're the best. I want to be like them. And he like sat in their parking lot for days in this like little like blacked out window car. And one day after it closed, he went and like knocked on the back, and they thought that they were getting like shaken down from it. But he was like, it was far away too. And he's like, I'm far away, but he's like, I need to know why you're so good. Like, where do you get your potatoes? What kind of, like, basically teach me how to do all of that. And they did. And he opened up what was a great place for a while, but then he flipped that business and sold it. But kind of reminds me of that, of like, let's spot a need, let's put something together and figure out a way to make it happen. So
that's cool. One last thing I did pop in my head, speaking of a need, do you sell golf stuff at outlet prices?
Not
gloves,
so much,
but like shirts, polos, pants, and stuff.
A little bit. There is some golf shirts.
That's cool. That is something necessary in town, I will say. So that's good for me.
Yeah, it's funny when you think about sometimes in a town, like what are those everyday needs people need, and then look how, just how many places you could actually buy it from. We talked about the place in the mall, but I went there looking for a specific thing lots of times that they should have, and then I don't have it at all. And then it is, we become like a desert for stuff like that.
That's what I was saying earlier. A lot of these companies are afraid to come to Lindsay because of all the rules, for one, that the town doesn't allow new things because they're afraid to change, as well as do we have the population for them to want to take the chance of starting their business in this place?
And then sustaining it.
And sustaining it, exactly.
Around, So it opens up an opportunity for you to do it in a different way.
A lot of people just do like the pop-up shops for Christmas, back to school, and they just close down.
Yeah. That's tricky. That's a risk thing too. Some people don't want to take that jump, have that risk as a business owner, but
Yeah. Have you done any pop-ups or like weekend event? Like,
no.
This brand is here for this amount of time.
Nope.
I don't think that makes sense. I think it makes like just keep where he is. Like, if the biggest problem is like finding him right now, it's a marketing problem, but then also like just making sure more people get through there. Like, make sure like people can get there, see it, and I wouldn't want to do a pop-up.
It's interesting. I asked that question because a few years ago when I was first getting into CrossFit, there was like different sort of clothing brands that were starting that were sort of specific to that, and they either did online sales or they did pop-ups sometimes at certain gyms. They weren't opening stores. But I actually, as I say that, I can't even think of hearing about one like that for a while. Whereas for a while there was places who be like, oh, we're here this weekend, somewhere else another weekend, and they'd make a little event out of it where you could come and actually try on and do their stuff. But that's a bit different maybe than the outlet model.
Yeah, that would make sense. We had someone that reached out to Thrive about some athletic wear that they want to do a pop-up, and you know a little bit about the pricing for a pop-up here. And they're like, oh, I don't know, like, we're just getting started. And to me, in my head, it's like, that's a risk thing, too. Like, you need to put a little bit into that business to put yourself out there to take that step. And, like,
Right.
we all need to assume that, so.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. The kind of final question on that risk. I'm just curious how it felt when you like made your first order and like first got the space that you were in. What was that process?
It was exciting.
Exciting.
Yeah, it was exciting because it was mine. That was my greatest achievement.
Yeah, I think that's just awesome, and it's one of those things where. And Matt's experienced this too, where when it opens, lots of people are like, "Oh, I had that idea. Like, I should have done that." And it's like, but you didn't, right? You took that risk of like, who knows what's going to happen, right? Like, maybe nobody wants cheap clothes anymore,
Right.
But to do it and then be right, and to see that, I think is really.
That's what I feel like it goes through a lot of people's minds because it's a third off or half off. They're going, what's wrong with this?
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, tell me what's going on here. I'm like, there's nothing going on here. Just take it for what it is.
And even overstock. Sometimes when you hear that, you think, oh, it's overstock because it's bad or people didn't buy it. But some of those big brands, they get so efficient that they just guess wrong. So it's overstock because they only sent that store this many because they didn't want to hold too many.
Right.
Or like those sizes are wrong because in that city it's only skinny people, so they didn't even send them a large,
Sure.
whatever, right? But they still have it, and it's still good stuff. They
Exactly.
just they didn't carry too much of it because maybe they didn't have the staff there. They're trying to run too thin, so it's still great stuff.
Sure.
Right?
Well, people love going to thrift stores, buying clothes. I mean, they don't ask questions to get a till with that, right?
Yeah.
They just their mind is saying, I'm going through a thrift store, so it's going to be cheaper and probably could be worn or it's not the case with us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any final thoughts?
No, just come on in and see for yourself all the great finds.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. If you're listening and would like to be on the podcast or have any questions about the show, please reach out to us to set it up at kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca.